Power Book 4. Force has officially reached the end of its 3-season journey, and I have nothing but respect for what is, in my opinion, the best Power spinoff so far. Watching characters slowly but surely fall in line behind Tommy and seeing him shut down the Chicago chapter with absolute authority was nothing short of incredible. And then comes the truly wild part. Tommy's story isn't over. As Tariq hinted, New York is next, and that's where a legacy will be built. So let's break down the most important moments from Force's explosive season finale and explore what lies ahead in the now officially confirmed Power legacy. First, we need to talk about Chicago, because this finale was an emotional roller coaster from start to finish. In almost every scene, I was genuinely worried something would happen to Tommy. It all kicked off with Jenard attempting to strike at JP's funeral. Thankfully, Tommy and Miguel played it smart, surrounding the church with an army of police officers and leaving Jenard with no move to make. Honestly, this felt like Jenard's last real chance to take Tommy out, because everything that followed stripped him of everything he had left. I never expected Che to hand Ortega over to Tommy so easily. After how intimidating Ortega had been built up all season, seeing him taken out so suddenly was shocking, but in the underworld, power shifts happen fast. With Diamond gone, everyone finally understood just how powerful Tommy had become. Che likely realized that partnering with Tommy was far more beneficial than standing by Ortega. In one move, the person Jenard trusted most was wiped off the board. Another surprising loss was Bobby. I'll admit, this one stung a little. Ortega's lawyer was a truly terrible person, and his attempt to gain Tommy's trust was incredibly deceitful. Still, his actions ultimately provided Tommy with a solid legal escape route. Jenard took yet another massive hit when King Kilo's crew switched sides. I was slightly disappointed by how ineffective Kilo and his men turned out to be, especially considering how feared they were. That said, the fear they struck into Jenard alone made it worthwhile. Then we reached the final battle, and it was unforgettable. Seeing Shanti get shot and watching Miguel in real danger genuinely shook me. Both characters had grown into strong, likable figures by the finale. And just when it looked like Tommy was about to be killed, the moment we had been waiting years for finally arrived. Tariq showed up. Watching him save his Uncle Tommy had my jaw on the floor. That moment was pure power. After the chaos, the conversation between D-Mac and Tariq hit hard. When D-Mac spoke about losing his father and expressed sympathy for Tariq, not knowing that Tariq killed his own, it was heartbreaking. Whether Tariq carries regret deep down or not, one thing is undeniable: he has grown up. And then came the moment we'd all been waiting for. After a powerful conversation between Tommy and Tariq, Tariq convinced him to build a legacy in New York. Personally, I would have liked to see them head to London or another US city, since New York has already been explored so much. But this time, they're talking about completely taking over the city, which means bigger enemies and far greater challenges. So what can we expect from Power Legacy? Let's start with the crew making the move from Chicago to New York. Tommy will almost certainly bring D-Mac, who has fully stepped into the role of his right-hand man. The instant chemistry between D-Mac and Tariq hints at an exciting dynamic that could strengthen Tariq's crew even further. Maria is also set to return at Tommy's invitation. Watching Tommy get emotional as he spoke about wanting his child to grow up on the same streets he did was deeply moving. Hopefully Maria makes it to New York safely and gives birth without complications. We also know that Kate has returned to New York, confirming her presence in Power Legacy. As for who else might follow, it looks like 2 villains aren't finished just yet. Jenard, now stripped of CBI and completely alone, has teamed up with Vic, who made the incredibly reckless decision to come back and try to kill Tommy after barely escaping with his life. With Tommy heading to New York, it's almost certain these two will follow. While I don't believe Jenard and Vic are capable of taking Tommy out directly, they could be dangerous through a sneak attack on someone he loves. Because of that, they're the first major threats to watch in New York. Beyond them, I strongly believe Tasha's former ally Tubi, or Tate/Tubbit, depending on rumors, could return. If he does, he would be a massive asset to both Tommy and Tariq. Effie and Brayden also feel like guaranteed additions to Power Legacy. And then there's the biggest potential shock of all, Ghost. Omari Hardwick was briefly listed in the cast for Force's finale before being removed, and he never appeared. Still, the theory that Ghost faked his death remains alive. If he does return, I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back as a villain. Only time will tell. As for the release date of Power Legacy, nothing has been officially confirmed. However, since the story takes place in New York, production could move faster than expected. Because of that, early 2027 feels like the most realistic window. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think of Force's finale? Did Gennard surviving frustrate you as much as it did me? And what are your theories for Power Legacy? Let's talk in the comments. And if you're curious about Power Origins, the upcoming spin-off exploring the younger years of Tommy and Ghost, make sure to check out that video next. From the very first seconds of the Power Legacy trailer, it becomes clear that this series is not here to play it safe. The tone feels heavier, more dangerous, and far more personal than anything we have seen so far. Chicago is behind us, but the scars from it are still fresh. Tommy is no longer just surviving, he is evolving. The trailer wastes no time reminding us that New York is where legends are made and destroyed, and this time, the city is not waiting to be taken. It is already under pressure. Every line of dialogue, every pause, and every look tells us that this story will be about power at its most raw form. We see a Tommy who has fully embraced who he is, but also a man who understands that New York does not forgive weakness. At the same time, Tariq's presence feels different. He is no longer the kid trying to prove himself. His voice, his decisions, and his confidence show someone who has accepted that the game is part of who he is now. The trailer strongly suggests that their partnership will not be easy or comfortable. This is not about loyalty alone anymore. It is about control, strategy, and survival. What makes the trailer truly chilling is how it hints that the enemies waiting in New York are not just street-level threats. These are people who already have power, influence, and history in the city. And when Tommy and Tariq step into that world, they are not just challenging gangs, they are challenging an entire system. The trailer also confirms something fans have been hoping for and fearing at the same time. Power Legacy will not slow down to explain itself. It expects us to keep up. Alliances will form fast, betrayals will hit harder, and every move will come with consequences. By the time the trailer ends, one thing is crystal clear. This is not a continuation of Force or Book 2. This is a new chapter where mistakes will be fatal, and only the smartest players will survive long enough to leave their name behind. To truly understand why Power Legacy feels so massive, we have to go back to how Power Force ended, because the finale was not just an ending, it was a declaration. Tommy did not simply survive Chicago, he conquered it. By the final episode, every major move proved that Tommy had outgrown the chaos that once defined him. Watching his enemies fall one by one was not just satisfying, it was symbolic. Chicago was the city where Tommy learned patience, strategy, and restraint, and the finale showed us the finished product. When his rivals underestimated him, they paid the ultimate price. When alliances shifted, they always shifted in his favor. By the end, there was no debate left about who truly ran the city. Tommy closed the Chicago chapter with dominance, not emotion, and that is exactly what made it so powerful. But what truly elevated the finale was the moment Tariq stepped back into Tommy's world. That single return changed the meaning of everything we had just witnessed. It was no longer just about Tommy winning Chicago, it was about the future being set in motion. Their conversation was calm, but the weight behind it was enormous. 2 generations of the same war standing together, fully aware of what comes next. That moment confirmed that Power Legacy was never an idea. It was always the plan. Chicago was the proving ground and New York is the prize. The finale also made it clear that Tommy is no longer running from his past. He has accepted it, sharpened it, and turned it into a weapon. That is why Power Legacy feels so dangerous. We are not entering this story with a reckless Tommy or an uncertain Tariq. We are entering it with 2 men who know exactly what the game costs and are willing to pay that price. The Power Force finale did not just wrap up storylines, it cleared the board. Loose ends were cut, weak players were removed, and only the strongest pieces remain. And when that final decision was made to move toward New York, it felt inevitable. Power Legacy begins not with hope, but with intention. Tommy didn't leave Chicago because he had to. He left because he was ready for something bigger. And that is what makes what comes next so terrifying and so exciting at the same time. When we say Tommy closed Chicago for good, we are not just talking about territory or enemies being taken out. We are talking about the moment Tommy finally separated himself from the man he used to be. The Power Force finale showed us a version of Tommy who no longer reacts. He plans. Every move in that final episode felt calculated, almost cold, and that is exactly why it worked. Chicago tested him in ways New York never did. It forced him to think beyond brute force and emotion. By the time the dust settled, Tommy was no longer fighting to stay alive. He was deciding who deserved to stay alive around him. That shift is what sealed Chicago's fate. The city was no longer strong enough to challenge him. His enemies made one critical mistake. They believed Tommy would play the same old game. Instead, he played a smarter one. Allies switched sides because they could see where the real power was heading. Fear followed Tommy wherever he went, not because he was loud, but because he was inevitable. The finale also made it painfully clear that anyone who stood in Tommy's way would eventually lose everything. Some lost their crews, others lost their protection, and some lost their lives. There were no dramatic speeches or mercy at the end, just consequences. That is why Chicago feels finished. There is nothing left there that can threaten him. Even the characters who survived did not feel victorious. They felt empty, broken, or defeated. And that is exactly how you know a city has been conquered. What makes this ending even more powerful is that Tommy did not celebrate. He did not look back. He walked away knowing that staying would only drag him backward. Chicago gave him clarity, but New York will demand ambition. Closing Chicago was not about running from danger. It was about recognizing that the danger no longer lived there, and as the door closed on that chapter, it became clear that the lessons Tommy learned in Chicago will make him far more dangerous in what comes next. The man entering New York is not the same man who arrived in Chicago. He is sharper, more patient, and far less forgiving. Chicago shaped him, but it could not contain him, and that is why Power Legacy begins with such a heavy sense of tension. Tommy is not coming to New York to test himself. He is coming to take something that does not belong to him yet. What truly made the Power Force finale unforgettable was not just the power plays or the bodies that dropped, but the emotional weight behind every single moment. From start to finish, the episode felt tense, unpredictable, and exhausting in the best possible way. There was never a moment where it felt safe to breathe. Every scene carried the fear that someone important might not make it out alive, and that constant pressure kept building until the very end. Watching Tommy move through the chaos felt different this time because we could feel what was at stake for him. This was no longer about ego or revenge. It was about protecting what little family he had left and making sure their sacrifices meant something. The losses hit harder because they felt earned, and the betrayals cut deeper because they came from people who once stood close. Even the quieter moments carried emotional weight. Conversations felt heavy, looks felt meaningful, and silence said more than words ever could. The finale did a powerful job showing how the life Tommy lives affects everyone around him, especially the younger generation. Seeing the pain, confusion, and acceptance in characters like D-Mac reminded us that this world does not just destroy enemies, it shapes those who grow up inside it. That is why Tariq's return hit so hard emotionally. It was not just fan service or shock value, it was the collision of two broken paths that understand each other perfectly. Their shared history, their losses, and their choices all came rushing back in a single moment. The finale also balanced emotion with realism. Not every goodbye was dramatic, and not every victory felt good. Some moments were simply sad, uncomfortable, and painfully honest, and that is what made them work. By the time the episode ended, it felt like we had been through a full journey, not just an action-packed finale. The emotional roller coaster was intentional. It reminded us that power always comes at a cost, and no one walks away clean. As the screen faded to black, there was a clear feeling left behind. Relief that the chapter had ended, and fear of what the next one will demand emotionally. Because if Chicago was this intense, New York is going to be unforgiving. Now that the trailer is out and the official release window has been revealed, Power Legacy no longer feels like a distant idea. It feels inevitable. According to the official announcement, Power Legacy is set to arrive in early 2027, and while that may sound far away, the scale of what is being built makes the wait understandable. This series is not just continuing a story, it is merging legacies. New York is not being reintroduced as familiar territory, it is being reshaped into something darker, more dangerous, and far more competitive than before. The trailer hints that Tommy and Tariq will not enter the city as kings, but as challengers. And that detail matters. They are stepping into a world where power is already established, where enemies do not reveal themselves easily, and where trust will be the most expensive currency. The release reveal also confirms that Power Legacy will move at a faster, more aggressive pace than previous chapters. There will be no slow buildup. From the very first episode, every decision will push the story forward and every mistake will carry weight. What makes this chapter so exciting is the uncertainty. We do not know who will survive long enough to matter. We do not know which alliances will hold and which ones will collapse. And we do not know how far Tommy and Tariq are willing to go when the city starts pushing back. One thing, however, is already clear. Power Legacy is positioning itself as the most ambitious project in the Power universe so far. It is about inheritance, evolution, and the cost of ambition. When the series finally premieres, it will not ask whether Tommy and Tariq belong in New York, it will ask whether New York can survive them. And until that day arrives, every reveal, every trailer detail, and every rumor will only add to the tension. The legacy is coming, and when it does, nothing in the Power universe will ever be the same again. Now this brings us to the moment everyone has been waiting for. The Power Legacy trailer reveal and the official release date confirmation. The trailer does not just tease what is coming, it makes a promise. Power Legacy is set to premiere in early 2027, and that timing alone tells us how seriously this project is being taken. This is not a rushed continuation. This is a carefully built expansion of the Power universe designed to raise the stakes higher than ever before. The trailer makes it clear that New York will not be a familiar playground like before. This version of the city feels colder, more controlled, and far more dangerous. Power is already established there, and anyone trying to take it will have to bleed for it. Tommy entering New York feels like a challenge to the entire city itself, while Tariq's presence signals that the future of the game is changing. The trailer strongly hints that their paths will not always align perfectly. Trust exists, but so does ambition, and in the Power universe, ambition always comes with a price. Another key takeaway is how the show positions legacy as the core theme. This is no longer just about survival or money, it is about names, consequences, and what gets passed down to the next generation. Every move from here on out will echo far beyond a single season. The trailer also leaves us with unanswered questions that feel intentional. Old enemies are not as gone as we thought. New threats are watching from the shadows, and some ghosts of the past may not be finished haunting this story yet. Power Legacy feels like the culmination of everything that came before it, but also the start of something darker and more ruthless. As we wait for 2027, one thing is certain. This series is not aiming to repeat history. It is aiming to redefine it. New York is not just the next stop, it is the final test. And when Power Legacy finally arrives, only one truth will matter. Not everyone is going to make it out with their legacy intact.